And remember to get the date on there. Today's Tuesday, September 7th. Now, you may be asking yourself, we just finished section 3, why are we skipping to section 6? Fits in a little bit better. We will go back and cover sections 4 and 5 later. But this one fits in a little bit nicer at this point. Now, if you remember, I said this is going to be reviewed for most of you. Basically, we've got some formulas here. And before I forget, this is section 6. This will not be on your quiz on Thursday. Thursday's quiz just covers sections 1 to 3. So this will come out on a quiz later on down the road. The thing we're going to cover today, a few different things. We're going to cover perimeter, circumference, and area. So we got some different shapes we need to know the formulas for. Let's start with a triangle. All right, on the triangle, let's go ahead and draw a picture of this. You got your three-sided figure. We'll start with the area. Area will abbreviate with capital A. Formula for the area of a triangle is half the base times the height. Or you may have learned it's base times height divided by 2. It's the same thing. You can use either one, they both work. And then for the height on a triangle, well, first of all, the base is going to be the bottom side. We'll call this B right here. And then your height would be the distance from the top of the triangle perpendicular to your base. So this distance right here is h. And then just so we can use them, we'll call the other two sides C and D. So there's your formula for the area of a triangle. You take half the base times the height. Whatever your base is, put it in there. Whatever the height is, put it in there. Perimeter, we'll use capital P to represent perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around an object. On a triangle, you have 3 sides. Those 3 sides are B, C, and D. So find your perimeter, you just add those 3 together, B plus C plus D. Those are the only 2 formulas we need for the triangle. How many people remember seeing those in the past? Quite a few. Let's go to a square next. For the picture of a square, on a square, you're going to have 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides. To show the sides are congruent, we'll put the little congruence marks on them. And since all 4 sides are the same, I'm going to call one of the sides S. If one side is S, they would all 4 sides be the same thing, S. And if you remember your formula for a square, to find the area, you're going to take the side, any one of the sides, and you square it. Side squared will give you the area of the square. Find the perimeter, we're going to add up all 4 sides. All 4 of your sides are going to be S's. You add up 4 S's together, you get 4S. 4 times the side. So you can either multiply a side times 4, or if it's easier for you to remember to add all 4 sides together, you can do it that way too. S plus S plus S plus S. Both of those will work. Square and a rectangle are similar to each other. Rectangle is going to have 4 right angles also. But the difference, rectangle, all 4 sides are not congruent to each other. Sometimes on a rectangle, they will call the two dimensions of the rectangle the base and the height. Our book uses length and width. So this longer side they call the length, shorter side they call the width. If you're used to base times height, it's the same exact thing. Length and width are the same as your base and height. And we'll start with the area. We'll give you guys a shot. Anybody remember the formula for the area of a rectangle? Nobody remembers this one? You're going to just take length times width. And then to get your perimeter, you're going to add up all the sides. We've got 4 sides here. Now on a rectangle, the bottom and the top are the same. So the bottom side is L, the top side is L. The right and the left-hand sides are the same. The right-hand side is W, the left-hand side is W. Then if you add up all 4 sides, you're adding 2 lengths together, and you're adding 2 widths together. The formula for the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Or if you prefer to add all 4 sides together, that works too. Rectangle. And then our last figure today is a circle. And with the circle, there's 2 parts we need to know. If I draw the distance from the center of the circle to a point that's on the circle. In other words, I'm going halfway across the circle. Anybody remember what that one's called? Halfway across the circle. What's that called? I can see your lips with it. Oh, no. Well, let's try this one. If you go all the way across the circle through that center point. Anybody remember what that one's called? Nobody? Yep. Pie chart. I see where you're getting at. No, that's going to be something different. And we'll do pie charts later on, but no, this one we're looking for something different. Yep, what is it? Diameter goes all the way across the circle. So this long one is the diameter. Anybody remember the short one? Halfway across. Yep. That one's the radius. We'll abbreviate that with an R. So the lowercase d represents diameter, lowercase r is the radius. And now of all the formulas, the circle one is the ones that people seem to have the most trouble with. So let's start with area. A lot of people get these two confused. To find the area, you're going to take pi times radius squared. And then we talked about perimeter on the other figures. Perimeter is the distance around the object. On a circle, we have a different name for perimeter. It's called circumference, which we abbreviate with a capital C. And circumference has 2 different formulas you can use. You can pick whichever one you like. I prefer taking pi times diameter. Or you could do 2 times pi times radius. Whichever one you're familiar with, go ahead and use it. Those are the formulas we're going to need here in section 6. Now, these formulas will not be given to you on the test. At least I don't think we will. Unless we change our minds this year. But these formulas you need to know. So there's something you're going to have to learn, have to memorize. Make sure you remember them. Any questions with formulas before we go into some examples? Okay, let's show you how these work. Directions are going to tell us to find, we'll start with the circle. We're going to find the circumference and area. Actually, let's change it. Let's do one without. Let's do perimeter and area. Instead of starting with a circle, we'll start with a rectangle. this rectangle is going to be 4 meters by 2 meters. And we need to find both the perimeter and the area. Since perimeter comes first, we'll start with perimeter. Now, if it helps, you can do this. If the bottom side is 4, what's the top side got to be? It's got to be 4. If the right-hand side is 2, what's the left-hand side? It's also 2. And now you can either use your formula or you can just add up the sides. You're going to have 2 4s to add together, which is 8. You're going to have 2 2s to add together, which is 4. 8 plus 4 gives you 12. And then when you label for perimeter, your answer is going to be the same units. In this case, we have meters, so your answer is going to be 12 meters. So if you want to use the formula 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, you can do that. Or you can just add up all 4 sides to get 12. Either way, it's going to work there. To get the area, we're going to take length times width. Your length on this one is 4. The width is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. But when we do area, does anybody remember how we label area? Yep. That's going to be meters squared. Yep. You're going to square the units. So whatever your units are, you're going to take it to the second exponent. In this case, we had meters, so our answer is going to be 8 square meters. All right, that was a rectangle. Any questions with the rectangle? Okay, now when we get to the second one, now we're going to do a circle. And they're going to change the directions on us just a little bit. Obviously, instead of perimeter, we're going to find circumference. I'll do a little abbreviation here. We're going to find circumference and area. And then here's where things are going to get a little bit different. They're going to tell us to do this in terms of pi. When you get to your test, they're going to make you do this in terms of pi. Quiz, when you get your quiz later on down the road, we're going to do it in terms of pi. When it says to do this in terms of pi, what that means is they want you to leave pi in your answer. So instead of putting 3.14 into the calculator and computing your answer, we're just going to leave the symbol pi in the answer. So you won't take it to the calculator. So here's how this is going to work. First of all, we got our circle. We need either a radius or a diameter, or let's put in a radius. 3 inches. And then we'll go to our formulas. For circumference, you're going to either do pi times diameter or 2 pi r. I prefer pi times diameter, so I'll do that route. Do it that way. We got pi out front. On my picture here, I have a radius of 3. We want diameter. If the radius is 3, what's the diameter got to be? 6. Double that 3, you get 6. Now at this point, you would probably take this into the calculator. You take 3.14 times 6. Since they want our answer in terms of pi, we're going to leave pi in the answer. So what we're going to do here, we're going to keep that pi in there. And we kind of look at that pi as being like a variable. If you had x times 6, you would write it as 6x. We have pi times 6, so we're going to write that as 6 pi. And if you want to label it, it would be inches. And that's as far as your answer goes. You're not going to put it into the calculator to get a decimal. You're going to leave it as 6 pi. So when it says in terms of pi, you want that pi in your answer. Let's do the same thing with area. Area is pi times radius squared. Again, we're going to leave pi in here. The radius is 3. And we're going to square that. And then if you go back to your order of operations, do we take pi times 3 first or 3 squared first? What do we do in our order of operations first? Multiply or exponents? You're going to do exponents first. Yep. So we got to do 3 squared first. 3 squared means 3 times 3, which is 9. And then we got pi times 9, same thing there. We're going to write the answer there as 9 pi. Put the number first, the pi symbol behind it. We'll just label this as square inches. All right, we got those two. Any questions with the first two? Okay, we better do one triangle in here since we got triangles also. Let's take a triangle. On this triangle, let's just make up some numbers. We're going to put a height here of 6. This bottom length is going to be 10. This side's going to be 8. This side's going to be 7. And this time around, they don't give us inches or feet or anything like that. All right, now let's go to our formulas. With this one, triangle, we've got area and perimeter. So let's go to area first. Area of a triangle, we said was half the base times the height. Now you just have to put in the parts. The half is going to stay where it's at. Your base is 10. And the thing you got to be careful of, the height. That's how tall your triangle is. The triangle is 6 units tall. And then multiply it together. Half of 10 is 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Since our picture wasn't labeled, you just call this one units if they don't put anything on there. So our area would be 30 units. And then we're going to do the perimeter next. For the perimeter, you're going to add all 3 sides together. 3 sides are 10, 8, and 7. 10 plus 8 is 18. 18 plus 7 is 25. Oops, I forgot something here. 25 units for our perimeter. I mislabeled my area. What should the area be labeled? Instead of units, what should I have there? Units squared. Area is always squared. Perimeter is just going to be the regular units. Okay. There's your examples of how those work there. Does anybody need to see another one with rectangle, triangle, circle, any of those? People remember doing it last year or somewhere in the past. Okay. And there's only one thing left to show you today. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to find the area and perimeter. But this time, instead of giving you a picture, we're going to put it on the coordinate plane. I'll call this letter D so you know it's an example here. So we're going to have our XY coordinate plane. And if you forgot, right and left is your x-axis, up and down is your y-axis. What they're going to do now is they're going to put the figure on the coordinate plane. So up here, we're going to have point P. It's going to be at -1, 3. And just to keep it simple, we'll do a triangle here. We're going to put point Q down here at -3, -1. And then we'll put point R over here at 4, -1. And you connect those 3 points, you get a triangle. And usually what the book will do is they'll kind of shade it in so you can see the figure. There's your triangle we're trying to find, the area and the perimeter for. So the thing that's different here is we're on the coordinate plane, but we're still going to use our same formulas. We'll just have to do a little bit of work here. So let's go ahead. We'll start with perimeter because that's a little bit easier. In order to find the perimeter, I'm going to add up all 3 sides. So what I'm going to have to do here is go back to what we learned in section 3. I've got 2 endpoints. To find the length of those endpoints, I'm going to use my distance formula. So let's start with side PQ. Now, if you remember back to section 3, distance formula, we're going to have the square root symbol. First set of parentheses, we're going to subtract our x coordinates. So we're going to have -1 minus -3. And And then we're going to square it. We're going to add to that, same thing with the y coordinates. We're going to go 3 minus -1 for our y coordinates. And then we got to simplify it. So remember to keep your square root symbol all the way till the end. This one, we got some double negatives. So just like last week, double negatives, we're going to change to positives. -1 plus 3 is 2. So 2 squared here. 3 plus 1 is 4. That's going to be 4 squared here. Keep going. 2 squared is 4. 4 squared is 16. You add those up, you get the square root of 20. And now with square root of 20, usually we're going to do simplest radical form. Since we're trying to find the perimeter, the distance around it, we're going to go ahead and use the calculator to round this off. Since we're finding perimeter. Square root of 20 is about 4.5. Put it in there. So we found the length of PQ. That first side is about 4.5. I'm going to circle that. Now let's find the length of QR. QR, I'm going to show you the long way first. And then I'll show you a little shortcut here. QR, we're going to subtract the x coordinate first. -3 minus 4, we'll square that. Same thing for the y coordinates. That's going to be -1 minus -1. Square that. Simplifying QR, -3 minus 4 is -7. And then over here you got double negative. -1 plus 1 is 0, so 0 squared. Finish it off. -7 squared is 49. 0 squared is 0, so 49 plus 0 is 49. We know the square root of 49. What's the square root of 49? 7. So that one comes out to a whole number. Now there's a quicker way to do that. If you look at QR, it is a horizontal line. Okay, since it's a horizontal line and not a diagonal line, what I can do is look at how far it moves on the x-axis. It goes from -3, 1 over here to 4, -1 over here. If you look at the x coordinates, it's going from -3 to 4. How many units are there between -3 and 4? 7. You've got 3 units here to get to the y-axis. 4 units here. 3 plus 4 is 7. So if you get a horizontal line like this, you can just count boxes. If you get a vertical line going straight up and down, you can just count boxes. You wouldn't have to do the distance formula. Okay, we're 2/3 of the way there. We've got our 2 sides. We've got to find one more side PR. Once we find the length of it, then we can add them all up to get our perimeter. So again, we need distance formula. This one's a diagonal, so I can't count boxes. I'm going to have to do the distance formula. X coordinates are -1 and 4. We're going to subtract those in parentheses and square it. Then the same thing with your y coordinates. 3 minus -1. Square it. Then we can simplify. -1 minus 4 is -5. Square that. 3 minus a -1, those double negatives become positive. 3 plus 1 is 4. Finish it off. -5 squared is 25. 4 squared is 16. If you add that up, that's square root of 31. Since we're trying to find perimeter here, oh, I added that wrong. It's square root of 41. And since we're trying to find perimeter, if you put that in the calculator, that's about 6.4. So now I've got my 3 lengths of all 3 sides. Now I can do the perimeter. Capital P for perimeter. Perimeter is going to be adding all 3 sides together. We would add 4.5 plus 7 plus 6.4 together. 4.5 plus 7 is 11.5. 11.5 plus 6.4 is 17.9. And then again, we don't have units on here, so we don't have units marked. We don't have centimeters or meters or anything like that. So we would just say the perimeter is 17.9 units. Okay, that's the long formula. Now, if you want the area, we're just going to do half the base times the height. And this one's a little simpler. The half will stay in there. The base is where your height is going to be drawn down to. Now, the height of this triangle goes from the top straight down to what the base would be. The base would be QR. Go back, we already did the length of QR. QR was 7. So that part's already done for us. And then the height we have to figure out. And it's going to be very similar to what we did before with QR. QR, we figured that was 7 units long because there were 3 units from -3 to the y-axis. There were 4 units from the y-axis to 4. 3 and 4 equals 7. We're going to do the same thing now, except we're going up and down. If I'm going up and down, I'm on the y-axis. So now I'm going to look at the y-coordinates. We're going from 3 to -1. How many units is it to get from 3 down to -1? 4. And that's going to be 4. You'd have 1, 2, 3 to get to the x-axis. Then a -1 is another unit. That's going to be 4 total units. 4 is going to be the height of your triangle. You count from the y-coordinates from 3 to -1. That's 4 units long. Your height's going to be 4. Now you just got to simplify it. Half of 7 times 4, I'm going to do the 7 times 4 first. That's 28. Half of 28 is 14. So we'll do an area, we're going to do square units. 14 square units. So when it comes to problems like this, where you have to use coordinate plane, if you want graph paper, we have graph paper for you. I have a bunch up here on the corner of this cart up here. You can use these if you need to. Or you can just kind of freehand it like we did in your notes. That will work just as well. But if you need the graph paper, we've got graph paper up here for you. Okay. That is going to cover section 6. Any questions with any of that? Okay, let me get my computer back and then we'll finish this off.